What is up, everybody? We are back here on YouTube, Saltiest Gaijin NTG, to talk about the newest set just to come out here for Magic, that being, of course, Dominaria United, it being a highly anticipated set by a lot of players, especially post-spoiler season. And we're going to talk about today, the top five cards that at least I'm excited to play with going into the new standard format. I never thought I'd find myself sitting here talking about playing standard. It's been quite a while since I've been that excited to do that. So we're going to go ahead and just dive right on into our top five list. Let's go ahead and switch this over. Alright, so I've got a series of cards that we're going to go ahead and just discard this. That I've gone ahead and picked out for an honorary mention. I had noted down that I wanted to talk a little bit about the new lords that we'll be seeing in Standard. I doubt that they will see too much play, at least at first. Like Valiant Veteran, Voldalian, Hex Catcher, Shadowrite Priest, Rundvelt Horde Master, and then lastly, of course, Leaf Crowned Visionary. Lord effects traditionally have been very powerful if there's enough to support the tribe that they're a part of. I know as of now, there's definitely a little bit going for clerics. Not a whole lot for groups like merfolk, goblins, elves, or even soldiers. So these are cards that I doubt will see a lot of play, at least at first. But especially soldiers, I imagine over the next year's worth, of sets, as well as the lifetime of this card. About 2 years from now. I imagine we'll see these if we get enough soldier support. Valiant Veteran is the one that really stands out to me as a pretty easy one to keep an eye on. But let's dive in to our number five. Our number five, Haughty Djinn. So Haughty Djinn is a very classic card for players like myself. I might be dating myself, but I am in fact a Magic boomer by the standards of today. And Haughty Djinn, it's an Enigma Drake. 3 mana, X4. X is the number of instant sorceries in your graveyard. But the additional text of making your instant and sorcery spells cost 1 less to cast, that can be pretty big game. My lightning strikes being lightning bolts, my X spells getting a free part of their casting cost. There's definitely a lot that you can do with Haughty Djinn. So I definitely think, at least for standard's sake, that this could be a fairly decent 3-drop threat for more removal and spell-based mid-range to control strategy. So very excited to see how Haughty Djinn plays out. I know I'll be playing a good bit with it, at least at first. Next up here, and I know this is probably going to shock some people, Liliana. Oh, should probably turn off the rarity filters. We got Liliana of the Veil. I know a lot of people would probably expect this to be higher. Now, I want to clarify, I didn't rank these cards necessarily by my level of excitement for them, but there is a reason I wanted to talk about Liliana early on, is that I do look forward to playing with Liliana. Again, this is like the quintessential Magic boomer planeswalker, but I absolutely adore the Liliana of the Veil. It's one of my favorite cards of all time. But I will tell people, as somebody who was there playing the standard format where Liliana was originally legal 10 years ago, she wasn't like a force of nature in the format. She's not exactly always the most powerful thing you can be doing. I do suspect that Liliana will find a home, just like she did back then, in the format, just not nearly as dominant as people probably expect her to be. But definitely a very powerful card, and a card that I'm probably going to be playing a lot of, or at least more than I care to admit. Moving on to our number 3, this is a card that really takes me back to another card, Shark Typhoon, Herd Migration. I think this card At the very least, this having, pay 1 and a green, discard it, search your deck for a basic land card, put it in your hand, and then you gain 3 life. I feel like when you're playing this card, it's going to be doing that mode a lot. And if there's a even relatively powerful like domain strategy, this card seems like it's really going to fit right into there. Uh, as well as just, we know that these like 2 mana draw card, uh, you know, effects that have later payoffs, like Shark Typhoon, have definitely proven themselves, in standard in the past. So, and looking at kind of like now that we have a domain payoff, being able to say, grab a splash color basic land, or just expand your domain count, and then later on be like a 7 mana, make like, we'll say reasonably 4 3/3 beast tokens, is definitely a very powerful effect, and one that I suspect will be quite good in standard, and it's a card that I'm really looking forward to playing, at least at first. And the next one, there's a little bit of a cheat. The Defiler cycle. I couldn't pick just one of the Defilers to talk about. I think Defiler of Instinct is probably the best of these 5 cards. It's, similar to Defiler Flesh, aggressively costed, has a combat centric keyword. I just feel like that this effect is probably going to be, best used in the red deck, and its cast trigger is also incredibly relevant to the red deck. So I could easily see Defiler of Instinct being, a standout amongst this cycle. You have things like Phoenix Chick, and a handful of 1 mana red drops like Reinforced Ronin is a card that comes to mind as a 2/2 with haste for 1 mana that it keeps putting itself back in your hand. Synergizes conveniently well with Defiler of Instinct. I could also see Defiler of Flesh if there ends up being a mono black, uh, aggro deck. This being a reasonable threat there, being able to make a lot of your any one of your early threats have menace. +1/+1 can make it where you can sneak some damage across. I think it's a little less likely because there's a lot of really good black aggressive cards, but they already kind of have, well, most of the good ones already have menace. So a little bit less of a relevant ability, but definitely one that I really like. And then the other one out of the 5, there's 3 5-mana Defilers. Defiler of Vigor stood out to me as having a particularly powerful effect. It's just not very clear if being 5 mana makes up for, like, well, rather, like, how powerful its effect is makes up for it being 5 mana. It's coming down at a point where it's not. I mean, a 5 mana 6/6 by today's standards isn't exactly an all-star card, we'll say. So, be interesting to see how Defiler Vigor plays out, but I'm not gonna hold my. I wouldn't be surprised if this one's actually a dud. And similarly, like Defiler of Fate, Defiler of Dreams, there's no clear deck that these will fit into that their effects are realistically all that impactful. Just given that the what Defiler of Faith does is a deck that likely doesn't play a lot of 5 drops. And similarly, Defiler of Dreams doesn't obviously fit into a deck. And being a 4/3 in a format with a card like Lightning Strike running around, Defiler of Dreams kind of makes me a little hesitant. I will say, spoilers for another upcoming list video that'll be coming out. I imagine we'll be talking a little bit more about Defiler of Dreams when it comes to Pioneer. Similarly with Defiler of Vigor. But moving on, so the number 1 card that has surprised me, I didn't expect this to be the card I'd be talking about as my number 1 spot, but Quirion Beastcaller has stood out to me in the early playtesting that we've done. For those who maybe caught one of our recent streams prior to this video, we did actually play with this card on launch day in Explorer a little bit, but I'm really excited to play this in Standard, because this effect, so it's of course 2 mana 2/2, whenever you cast a creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and then when it dies, you can distribute the +1/+1 counters on it amongst the other creatures you control. So this is so like that first line of text, a 2 mana 2/2 that would grow, that's already a reasonable card. But that dies trigger, that's where Quarian Beast Scholar really gets powerful, because the traditional problem you have with Quarian Beast Scholar is that, sure, you grew it to a 5/5, you did all that work, and then it just dies to a Doomblade. Like, so, like, and you can always make the art, everything dies to removal, but being able to, like, even just move 1 or 2 counters from Quarian Beast Collar to another threat is really huge. And I'm really excited to try this card out with a lot of the other modified Matters cards we got from Kamigawa. One that really stands out to me is Kodama. Being able to play Quarian Beast Collar on turn 2 with a turn 3 Kodama to give it a counter attack, get a land out of your deck, seems like a very powerful kind of green mid-rangey strategy that may not just be exclusively good in Standard. It may be something we can cross over more into Pioneer as well. So a very exciting card, at least moving forward in Standard especially, and one that I imagine you'll be seeing quite a lot of over the next couple of weeks especially. So, of course, those are my top 5 cards, number 2 being a little bit of a cheat. For the new Standard format that we'll be looking at, we will be playing more Standard on stream, so be sure to check that out. That's at Saltiest Gaijin on Twitch. So, of course, feel free to check us out. There'll be a link to our Twitch channel in the description below. So, of course, let me know what you all think. I want to hear what everybody's favorite cards, or the cards they're most excited for from Dominaria United, whether that's for Standard, whether that's for Modern, whether that's for Pioneer, or even Commander. Go ahead and drop that in a comment down below. And of course, if you want to stay up to date with our content, you can of course follow us over at Twitch at twitch.tv/saltiestgaijin. You can also subscribe to us here on YouTube. So of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and of course, click that bell to stay notified. We appreciate you all for watching. See you again soon.